Hello and welcome. This is Jack Lahab with Ruth Lance. We run Creative Lattice, a free professional development website you can find at www.creativelattice.com, and Crit Connection, a paid online community for networking, conversation, and critique. Welcome, Ruth.
Thanks for having me, Jack.
Anytime. All right, so we're talking about Instagram, sort of a how-to for artists. Why use Instagram? All right, that's a big question. So it's free advertising. Collectors and curators all use it. It can be a free portfolio. It's sort of expected for us to use Instagram, and it's a great way to connect with new audiences. Um, right, Ruth? I mean, anything?
Yeah, I've heard of people who've been contacted for galleries through Instagram. I know I've met a lot of people through Instagram. So I think there's lots of reasons to engage with Instagram, but we can
Mhm.
talk about some of the not so great things too.
Yeah. So why Instagram sucks? It's overwhelming. It adds to the feeling of inadequacy. It's just another thing to do in this long list uh, of you know administrative tasks that we have. If we're thinking of it as a PR tool, and we're not in control of the algorithm, which is always a sucky thing. Anything I'm missing there?
I also think it's important to remember that it takes a lot of time to post on Instagram, but it also takes a lot of time, or it can really be a time suck looking at Instagram.
Right.
So we have to think about the
Yeah.
balance with
I mean,
that.
well, we can get into it later, but I deleted Instagram from my phone, and I'm much happier with it off of my phone. And that's not actually true. I actually just put it back on, but I gave myself a 5-minute timer just so I can share stories easily. Uh,
Mm.
but in any event, I got it off my phone because checking it in the morning, checking it in the evening, like you're checking it at times and you're getting triggered by all sorts of unwanted messages. So I think that's a good segue into um, understanding your goals. And so in all these different classes that people are offering, they usually dive right into the subject, but we don't talk about what are our goals here. And I think that's super important to understand our goal for all these things that we're doing. What is our goal for creating artwork? What is our goal for our financial concerns? What are our goals for having a website? And then once we understand our goals, we can much easier get into the nitty gritty. We can see if it's actually achieving those goals and if those goals are right. So, why do we want to use Instagram? What are we willing to put into using Instagram? Are you willing to check it all day long? Are you willing to, post once a day, once a week? And what do you hope to achieve? Do we hope to achieve connecting with new curators or connecting with galleries? So just wrote a simple mission statement for myself, and I want to engage and educate my audience, both my audience and I guess I would put in new audiences. Um, New audiences. Sharing upcoming events, past events, snippets of my life, and things I'm researching, and give a window into my process. So that would be I think a pretty simple mission statement.
I
And
also think, yeah, I think that's a good mission statement. I also think it's important with social media to think about just your sort of like emotional availability with your mission statement. Because I think that, again, it's easy to get sucked in and you want to make sure to set up those boundaries so that you don't spend all your time on it. Because I mean, like, educate and engage your audience, like, that could be a full-time job.
right.
you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like, it's important to set up those boundaries.
I feel like some people are super good at Instagram and they get a lot of traction, and most of us don't. And I feel like there's this craving to be an influencer, but doing influencer stuff is a full-time job too, right? And
Right.
I want to be an artist. not an Instagram artist. So I don't know. So we always have to balance. And I think doing a mission statement and also having like maybe a monthly check-in with yourself, like, is this doing what I wanted to do? Or maybe I need to take a break from how I'm doing it. You know, that's important. All right, so aspects to focus on. I think there's a bunch of different ways to use Instagram. So there's a traditional method, I think, where you just throw a bunch of spaghetti on the wall and you see what sticks, and you hope that the algorithm is going to be nice to you. You use the latest tool that Instagram gives you and lots of video right now, and then you pray to the Instagram gods. This did not work for me at all. Um,
Me neither.
there's the more journal method where you're just posting your practice and you sort of leave it at that, and you're sort of engaging with your friends and local arts community. And then I think there's the more portfolio method, which I kind of developed, and that's using the top 9 squares as an updated portfolio. So it just the top 9 squares are going to look like a consistent, nice website portfolio for you. And that's what, if a curator or gallery happens to come upon your Instagram, that's what they're seeing is like the updated stuff. So you don't need to worry about engagement. You don't need to worry about like um, keeping things constantly updated. Maybe just every like 3 months, you think, what am I working on now, and what do I want to those top 9 squares to look like?
Yeah, I sort of vacillate personally back and forth between the journal and the portfolio.
Yep.
I think the portfolio is more the grid, right? And the journal is more the stories.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, so if you can, so you can do both, right? You can do the portfolio method, and then in the stories, just be more active with what you're working on, um, and and sharing and trying to keep it fun, even though it's anxiety ridden for me.
Jack's
uh,
more fun than me
yeah, I'm more
in
fun.
his Instagram. It's true.
Well, I try and bring humor into it. I like being funny, so um, all right. So then there's a social aspect, and so this, these aspects, the traditional, the journal, the portfolio method, they're all like about the art and about the PR side. The social aspect is more about like how you connect with people. Remember, it's a social network. So there's the regular social, which is engaging with your fellow artists. Like I'm friends with Ruth on there, and and I see what Ruth has been up to. I'm friends with different art communities. So Crit Connection has Instagram, and then we post um, all the members of Crit Connection on there and say, hey, this is what Jack is working on right now. Then there's the more strategic social, and we'll get into this. Um, but this is a lot more work, is the strategic side. You can decide how much work you want to put into it. I put a good amount of work into the strategic side, but that's engaging in specific art world professionals like curators, collectors, galleries, trying to onboard them to have more contact with you, and then ideally getting them off Instagram. So telling them that, hey, I don't really Instagram very much. Can I have your email? Because you're not in control of the algorithm.
Yeah.
All right.
And I just want to say there's lots of ways to be strategically social.
Yep.
This is just one way to do it. So I think we've kind of been pushed to believe that like Instagram is the way it needs to be done now.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Well,
there's lots of ways to do that.
yeah, we can have a whole
Pardon?
talk on. We can have a whole talk on like the different ways of being social and how to be
Mhm.
social as an introvert. I think that's also important.
Super important.
Um, all right. So general tips. Be consistent in your. So these are general tips for that first like spaghetti method. I think the traditional method of like what people are expected to do on Instagram. So consistent posting, aim for regular posting that prioritize quality over quantity. Um, you can post a few times a week or you can post daily. The algorithm probably wants you to post daily, but I find that exhausting if you're able to do it. kudos for you. Embracing video content is a huge one. I find that also really difficult, but that said, um, there are people who are really successful at it. Like, let's see, um, we had a
But I
chat
also think,
with William Evertson,
yeah.
and
But some
he,
of the things he was saying was that his videos didn't need to be long.
yep,
He didn't like edit or do anything crazy. They were
yeah,
just like short little snippets of process mostly.
yep. And that's the other thing is like understanding what Instagram likes, and I think they like process, or audiences on Instagram like process. They like juicy things like seeing paint move around. They like attractive people, which that's not going to help me.
Me
Uh,
neither.
and but they like faces. I think one of Williams like really popular posts had like a dog in it, so it's like they like faces, they like human aspects as well. Um,
Color usually is helpful. Like,
Color. You hear Williams like doing process of pulling a print. I think people really like that. But you also see how short it is, right? Like,
I think he has a lot of the pulling. I think the reveal, is like big. Like,
yeah, I've seen a
oh,
lot of people do like they hold a painting and then they flip it around. They hold a painting with the back showing and then they flip it around and smile. I find those
hmm
really annoying, but like I think someone told them to do that and that's like the reveal.
yeah, there's a lot of reveals. I find those really annoying too, but
Maybe they
whatever
work.
works for him.
And then crafting your profile. I think that's really much more important. This is sort of the portfolio method, but making sure that like this top section, that your name is clear, that it says what you do, so that if someone's searching like large scale woodblock prints, I think this comes up when in this search button when you're like searching. I think it does take from your profile. Um, Having any important links, and I would limit yourself to like 3 links because people aren't going to click on a bunch of stuff. My analysis is people usually only click on one thing. So put the top link as the number one thing you want people to go to, whether it's a current show or a program you're running or your website, like that should be the top link. And there shouldn't be too many links because that's going to just be confusing. I think also, so I like this that it says like, all right, says what he does, what he's interested in, and how to contact him. Simple, only 3 things, and then it has a few links. I think that's great. What do I have? I have, sort of who I am, what I'm working on now. I actually need to update that. I put like why I'm fancy. I kind of I say that as like that's considered social proof, but it's like for a curator that comes, then they see, oh, he's connected to the Jewish Museum New York, or like, you don't have to be connected to a museum, but like, what was the last thing that you're proud of? Um, that like someone could see and make and like be like, oh, they're like, they're doing something, right, Ruth?
Yeah, mine needs to be updated. I know that for sure. But no, I think that's a really good idea. I like when people have what they have coming up in theirs. Um,
I will say, you see the little blue check mark, so I paid for that, and I'm sort of doing an experiment just in like the last month of seeing if that changes anything. Right now, it changes nothing. So I don't know if like I have had a few more follows, but just a few. And so I mean, it's probably not worth the $12 a month or whatever they're charging. So just to say, as an experiment, I did the blue check mark. I don't think it actually gives you any more engagement or any help.
have
Um,
you ever had someone impersonate you on
no,
Instagram? Well,
no one
that's
wants to impersonate me. I mean, but I'm not that fancy. But some people get impersonated, and then it's worth doing the check mark. you pay. I think now you have to. Everyone has to pay for it. Um, and then in order to get the check mark, I also had to change my profile picture. I think profile picture is pretty important too. Um, and people want it to show your face is good. Um, and I think I like it to be colorful because then when it's very small, it like stands out. So I think like um I know like yellows are supposed to stand out on social media, so maybe choose a yellow background.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. All right. Crafting your profile. I think we did that. Use your link space wisely. We just talked about that. Meta Business Suite. That's on Facebook. You can connect your Instagram to the business suite, and you can schedule posts on there. I think Instagram and Meta are making a lot of changes, trying to be more the one-stop shop and a little more user friendly in some of these things. So you can post stories from Meta Business Suite. You can schedule things. I should be scheduling, but I haven't had the energy to do it. And then it's also an app on the phone. So I find that to be nice that I can post without going into Instagram and getting lost in looking at other people's stuff. I can just post and not, have the intake, but only outtake.
You can also schedule posts within Instagram itself.
Now you can do
If you,
that now too.
yeah, you can do that now too without having to go into Meta Business Suite. I'm not sure if you can do it on the desktop yet, but I know you can do it from the app. Um,
You can, yeah. I know. I mean, so like the bottom line is by the time you're watching this, everything will have changed. So, but everything is always changing. So it's nice to know that. Um,
yeah,
uh,
but as far as scheduling things, if I have something coming up, I'll make some scheduled posts for
yeah.
sure that I know that I'm like promoting or whatever. But otherwise, I don't always because I don't have the content that I'll want to show, you know?
Then use relevant hashtags is next. A lot of people say don't use too many hashtags, use about 5 hashtags per post. They say make the hashtags in a consistent family. So like the algorithm can get confused. So like if you're in the like this is an artwork, so do like blue art or painting about a taco. So then they're all like consistent. Don't do like taco painting and I don't know, foster care or whatever. So it's like, I don't know, keep it in consist. I don't know if that's, who knows what the algorithm's doing, and chasing it is too confusing. So just use some hashtags.
Yeah, I've heard different things.
Yeah, right. And then partnerships. I mean, that's a more simple one. So, like, if you're showing at a gallery, make sure to tag the gallery. Make sure to like engage with the gallery's posts on the show that you're having, or team up with a fellow artist and say, hey, let's team up and share Instagram stuff, or let's do a Instagram live together, which I've never done, but I know people do that, and it's a way to like share your both of your communities, so that my community would show Ruth's stuff and Ruth's community would see my stuff, and it's just a way of getting more things out there.
Yeah, it also makes it easier for the person that you've tagged to, share it on their
Hmm.
network, whereas otherwise they would have to post it
And the
themselves.
difference between tagging and hashtags that most of you probably already know, but hashtags is just like it's a tag that will let people search for any image that has Ruth in it. Whereas if I tag Ruth, so I hashtag Ruth Lance, then it will show me all the Ruth Lance pictures. But if I tag Ruth Lance, then it will send Ruth a message and she'll know that there's a post about her, and then if someone clicks on that tag, it will lead back to Ruth Lance's profile. So that's sort of the difference. All right, engaging with your community. So interacting with your followers is really important. Commenting and sharing will lead them back to your post. So it's, again, being social isn't just about, as I was saying before, there's like the intake and the outtake. And it's not, being social is not just about shoving things out there. It's also about seeing what other people are doing and engaging with it. So then it will lead back to you, hopefully. Um, and on that note, I think people have commenting buddies usually on Instagram. So you'll see like people are often like they're often the same people that are commenting on your stuff. And so usually that's because I think you also comment on their stuff and there's like a back and forth. Like I have a few people that are always commenting on mine, and I always make sure to comment on theirs. And so it leads to consistent engagement. And I think that's also why the algorithm might pick it up a little bit more because they see that your thing is being engaged with. I will also sometimes go back to posts that have a lot of comments on them. So like a post of mine, like a birthday post where there's tons of people commenting, and I'll click on all the people and make sure I'm engaging back with them so that I like re-engage with the process. Um, something
Yeah,
that,
and I mean, I'll at least like the post if I don't like
yeah,
say anything, you know.
yeah. The
At
bare
least.
minimum is liking a post of someone else's, and then commenting on it is a little extra, which is also good to do.
Mhm.
Curating your feed. I think we talked about that a little bit. I'm a big fan of keeping the um, keeping the top nine kind of consistent. Um, right now, I'm sort of in the middle of something, but I like having like the two side ones be similar and then the center one a little bit different.
Do you
Um,
want to show how you pin things? Some people may not
I
know how to
pin
do
to
that.
the top. I don't think I
Yeah.
can do that on the computer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think you can, and that's why part of also why I didn't delete Instagram from my phone fully is because I don't think you can edit links on the computer and you can't pin things on the computer. So there's still things you have to do in the site, but I kind of like having the top three be pinned with like a very, a nice images that have seemed to be successful. And tell people like from the start, this is what I'm doing. So then people see it. That's part of this like 9 square portfolio thing, right? That I mean, mine, I need one more post to get it the full 9 squares aesthetically the way that I like it. Um, but I think it's important to have that consistent look and have somebody come to those top 9 squares and be like, oh, I know what Jack's doing, or I know what Ruth's doing. Uh, there's also kind of a psychology to a lot of this stuff. So, you probably heard that using your face on Instagram is important. I hate posting my face, as I'm sure a lot of people do.
So do
But it's
I. Yeah.
something that I've just been like, okay, Jack, get over it. Like you can accept challenges, just start showing your face, and they do get more engagement. Other people like seeing who is the person posting. And I do too. If I'm on there and I am looking at an artist site and it's all just images of their artwork, I find it less engaging than if there's a few images of the person with the artwork. Um, it's just what needs to be done.
And I also think people like to see artists at work. Like,
Hmm.
didn't you say people, artists on ladders is like a
Yep.
thing?
So that's what I said. Yeah, the humanizing images. So having some pictures of you with like plants or animals makes it more human. And then I'm a big fan of the artist on the ladder, and I think it's because it shows that the artist is a working person and that they're like engaging. And I've always found that ladder images get a little bit more engagement. That's just and so whenever I do a show, I make sure to leave time for a few install shots that are sort of um, staged. And I'm like, okay, get out the ladder and like have a
Mm.
picture of me like on something or on a stool or something that's um,
Something where contemplative and
Yeah,
in the process of it.
and building some sense of anticipation too. So like if you're having an upcoming show, give a little teaser of like, hey, I'm having this show coming up. And you don't want to give away everything that's in the show, but you can give some sort of teaser to maybe get people excited.
I also think that's why artists will post books that they're reading,
Yeah.
you know, which is
Yeah,
a
and
tactic
people that
too.
they're looking at too, and lots
Hmm.
of different types of posts you can make, which probably should be a section here. So you could make like um, there's like the process post of like you making something in process. There's your artwork post. There's an upcoming event post. There's
Research
research,
post.
yeah, things that you're interested in, and I think that's a good point of your research post is a great opportunity to educate other people about what you're interested in. And that's a big thing for Instagram is people go to it because they're like, hey, I learned something new. And then they'll engage with you often because of that. Um,
And then some artists will post other artists' work a lot too.
mhm.
Like, this is what I'm looking at. This is a great show, whatever. And that's another way of social engaging as well, because you can tag the other artist with a gallery and then
Yep. And then yeah, behind the scenes is another one. So yeah, there's lots of different types of posts, and we can write those down. All right, so now up to strategy. This is going to be a lot more work and might seem onerous, but I do it as a little bit every week, and it's really not as difficult once you have a process and you're doing it a little bit. Um, this strategic way of being social um, has different facets, but basically, I have a gatekeepers list. Um, so let's say I'm doing my research about the art world, I'm going about my business, and I come across this ArtNet article about young collectors calling the shots at the Guggenheim. Um, so I found that interesting. And then I'm like, oh, let's see. Neil Hamamoto is one of the young collectors. So I can go here and I search for Neil Hamamoto.
Big
And
Apple Boy.
hmm?
Big Apple Boy is his
Big
name.
Apple Boy. Yep. So then I follow Neil. I like what he says here. I'm like, great painting. Then what I do is I take Neil and I have a giant um, spreadsheet of art world gatekeepers. This is where you're going to be a little overwhelmed, but I get this giant art world gatekeepers spreadsheet. I take Neil's name, I put it in my spreadsheet. I say he's a collector, young collector. That's sort of his role. And I have his Instagram here. Then I reserve like 5 minutes per week to usually go through and I click on some of these people when I have time. So that one is a dead link. I don't know why. See, Yvonne Force. She's an art world gatekeeper person, just a popular art world person. I'll click on her most recent image that was posted 16 hours ago. I'll like it and maybe I'll comment something. You don't even need to comment anything serious. You can comment an emoji. Um, so I can't really do emojis on the computer that easily. Oh, there we go. I usually do a blue heart. That's my go-to emoji. And there you go. Now Yvonne is poked, whether or not she follows me. Um, there's a little bit more engagement. And so I try and do like 5 of these per week, and then eventually you'll have gone through your big long list. Um, And some of these names, I just put the name down and I didn't even get to putting their Instagram down. That's just the way that, there's only so much work you can do. Then we go from poking them occasionally to trying to onboard them. Onboarding is a little more complicated. Uh, Basically, it's trying to get any contact from Instagram into your larger network that is actually supportive of you. So let's say you listen to this talk and you say, "Hey, Jack Lahab, he's doing things in the art world. Let's look for him." I look for Jack Lahab here. I can't
You're
follow
like,
myself, of course.
ooh,
Uh,
he's verified.
he's very, yeah, he must be fancy. Excuse me. He must pay $12 a month. Um, so what I do is then I follow Jack, and if Jack happens to follow me back, what I do is I send him a message and I say, "Hey Jack, thanks for following back." And I say something personal. I love what you're doing on Creative Lattice. Great work. So, it's sort of an engagement compliment on what they're doing. It's a way of being social. Like let's say you go on a date. You don't just talk about yourself. You're not just like, "Hey Jack, like great, thanks for following me back. Let me tell you all about me." It's much
Some
better
people
to
do.
like to be inquisitive and say, "Great work. Like what do you have coming up?" So then I send Jack a message. Let's say he follows me back, and I mean he's already following me back. But let's say he follows me back and he writes me back. Then you're starting a relationship. And what I do is I have an onboarding spreadsheet. And in my onboarding spreadsheet, these are like, I have different sections, but like, let's say I'm on Instagram, I put Jack Lahav. Um, I have his role. So he's a creative lattice um, owner. I don't know what you want to say, director. I have his Instagram. So Jack Lahav's Instagram, I'll put that in there. I don't have his email, so that's something once you start talking to them, eventually I then end up saying, "Hey Jack, I really am not great at Instagram. Can you give me your email so we can stay in touch? Or can you give me your email so I can send you my recent show PDF?" I don't know what you want to send them.
Or you could ask if you could put them on your mailing list.
Yeah, you
So,
can. I mean I don't love that, but that's just me. I mean, eventually if enough people ask me, "Can I put you on my mailing list?" I probably start ignoring them. I think it's much better to say like, "Can I send you an invite to my next show or something? I'm having a show near where you are. Can I send you an invite on email because I'm bad at Instagram?" Then what I usually do is let's say today was April 22nd, 2024. That's when Jack followed me. He wrote me back on April 24th. That's when I sent him a message, 2024. And then usually I'll say like the next thing that I want to do is get their email or send them a catalog. This is my regular pipeline. So let's say for Jack, I sometimes do curating on the side. So that would be um, like their Jack's pipeline would be for a show. Um, and so let's say I ended up getting Jack's email or Jack's mailing address. I would send him a catalog or a card or something. And that would be my next step. I don't know why it doesn't say next, but it's a spreadsheet thing. So that's sort of onboarding. I feel like it's good for me to keep it there because then I can go and I see who are the urgent people. These are like the more important people that you're dealing with. So like let's say you meet a curator at the local museum and you're connecting with them, that they would go in urgent under exhibition. And then I'd have next as send a catalog. Um, so then I come back to this, and I do administrative work every Monday. I reserve like 3 hours. And one of the things I have is look at my onboarding list. And I go here and I look at the onboarding list and I say, oh, Jane Doe, I need to send her a catalog. So that's like one of my next tasks for this week. And I can keep everything sort of in check. Um, so that's my 2 cents there. Ruth, anything to say about this?
Well, I think that it's important for just to say that for people who this seems new, to start small,
Yes, amen.
you know, because, some people are probably looking at this and being like, oh my God. So I
Yeah,
think it's just important to start small and maybe just start with like, making a favorites list or a list of important people that you follow on Instagram and start there, like
yep.
or something, like just start with something and then it'll grow
I
out of
would encourage
that.
people to get familiar with spreadsheets. And by familiar, just like usually Gmail has a free spreadsheet called Sheets, which is what I'm using right here. And when you're saying like keep a favorites list, like it's just make a list. And I use the spreadsheet as a list, and then I can have their Instagram in here. So then I can like remember this list. I mean, I think that's the thing is like just having all this stuff in the ether doesn't work for me. And I mean, I guess it's whatever works for you, right? But for me, I
It
like
doesn't,
keep lists
yeah,
so
it
that
doesn't work for me either. I teach and I tell my students, if you want to be an artist, you need to take a business class
yeah,
and learn how to do all that stuff,
yeah.
um,
And
which
that's
is
what
something
I
that
wish I would have learned earlier in my career. I feel like there were a lot of contacts that I could have had of like more important people in the art world that I've just forgotten about because they're not on a list somewhere and I can't go back to that list. So like I have a VIP list, which is all the more important art world people that I meet. And then I'm able to go back to that list if I have time, which I never have time, but I could go back to that list and say, oh, there are all these people that I could be reaching out to or should be reaching out to.
yeah,
As someone said, it's like, hey, Jack, you're making a great way for yourself to feel more overwhelmed. Uh, but I think it's also important to keep these things written down for when you have time or energy or bandwidth.
hmm yeah, and I think setting like you were talking about time chunking or making sure every Monday you set aside 3 hours or whatever, even
Yep.
if it's like 20 minutes,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep. And so make it
it's
part of your process.
yeah,
So we can talk for just 2 seconds and then we'll be done on challenges of Instagram. So I mean, one of the things is unwanted content. That's why I deleted it from my phone. I found like all the political stuff way too triggering these days. Um, and I just don't need that. Like I follow the news. I like following what friends are following, but I don't need it first thing in the morning or right before I go to bed. Um, and so, trying to get away from some of that content is important. Um, Overwhelm, I just we just gave you all these tactics, but don't try not to feel overwhelmed. Try and that's part of the goal setting at the beginning of this talk was understanding what you can do and sticking to it and having, small achievable goals. We have a whole other talk on goal setting, but making things that are achievable for you. I find jealousy to be a huge problem. Um,
I do too. I'm like,
and
why the heck did they get that?
why did they get a Guggenheim? Why
Right,
are they
yeah.
doing this? Why are they in Cabo and I'm stuck in a cold studio? Um, all that stuff is, pushes my jealousy button. I will say that the best thing that I've heard is that when you see friends and contacts of yours that are being successful in the art world, like that they just won an award, you should feel good because that means that your community is doing well which means you're part of a community that's doing well, which means that, you're also doing well. Like it's a good thing for you to be part of this community that's doing well. So the fact that you know people who are being successful is a good thing.
And also, like, not to, keep talking about lists and spreadsheets, but it's also important to, like, acknowledge what you're doing well. And if you go back through your Instagram and you're like, oh yeah, I just had this thing and this thing and this thing,
Yeah.
it's okay to look at your own Instagram too and be like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm the
I've done
I'm the
all.
best.
Yeah. Yeah. You look through. I think. I heard someone say like look through your photos of the last year and see what what really sparked joy for the things that you've done. And it's important to be grateful for all the cool things that you're doing, and remember that you're also doing things. Um,
Hmm.
and then oversharing. Ruth, do you want to? I mean, talk about that
Well,
first.
for me, I feel like and maybe this isn't for everyone, but I feel like there is a limit to, like, some of the things you should share on Instagram. Just because, like, I get annoyed looking at people's feeds and I'm like, I don't care about this. Like, I don't need to know all of the um idiosyncratic day-to-day things that are happening in people's lives. And a lot of that has to do with overwhelm
Yeah.
because it's like there's too much content as to what's happening, so I don't need to know all of the hour to hour, minute by minute things that are happening. So I would also set up a boundary as to, like, and this could be back to your goal, right, as to how much you want to share.
Yep.
Um, I do think that some of the personal tips are good. Because I think that draws people in, but I do think there should be some sort of limit on that.
And I mean, my personal motto is I use the regular Instagram feed for pictures of my artwork and upcoming stuff. And then I use the stories occasionally for oh, this funny thing happened to me, or um, here's a pretty rock that I found. I don't know, whatever.
It, yes, certain things like that. Or I mean, you can always have two if you want to have a more personal conversation with, your friends and family. Maybe you have a
Yeah.
more professional Instagram and then a more personal one.
I can't. I have like 6 Instagrams, and I really only use can use one. And it's
Mhm.
like I'm always trying to limit. Um, so I would just say decide which one is more important to you and do that. Is it important for you to have a family Instagram or to have a um, I use I use Facebook more, I think, for like actual personal connections of people, and then Instagram is like the professional portfolio site. Um, but yeah, that's my personal opinion. But some people might have bandwidth to do 2 Instagrams.
Yeah, some people. Well, I have the two Instagrams just because I have the Creative Lattice and then my own
Yeah, great connection.
Instagram. Yeah, Crit Connection and then my own. But um, it just kind of depends on what you
But
need
those
to
are your
do.
2 professional jobs too. So it's like,
Oh,
I mean, jobs, right? It's like, you're having a career as an artist, and you're giving back your as a service with the Grid Connection.
mhm.
So
Right.
those two like big domains in your life, um, and I think, and so they're deserving. And
Mhm.
family could also be one, but yeah, there's only room for so many
Yeah,
Instagrams.
I mean, and I could make one for teaching, but I'm not gonna do that. That would,
Big,
you know,
yeah.
that would have way too much personal content.
I think we can wrap up. Thank you all for joining us. Again, you can go to creativelattice.com, and check out our other professional development stuff. Grid Connection is a great way to meet other artists, so you can in an affordable manner. It's not that expensive. We believe in equity and having affordable options for this professional development stuff. And you can find Crit Connection also on the Creative Lattice website or find us on Instagram. Thank you all.